I encountered an alien woman on a forest path. She said she was looking for something. The forest was still that day, unnaturally still, like the world itself had paused to take a breath. The afternoon sun streamed through the trees in golden shafts, illuminating motes of dust that danced like lazy fireflies. My boots crunched on the gravel path, a rhythm I'd become familiar with during my daily hikes, a cadence that connected me to the earth, kept my mind quiet and present. But that silence was broken. A voice, soft, lilting, and yet completely unplaceable. "Excuse me." I turned so quickly that I nearly tripped over myself. The voice didn't belong here. It wasn't just unexpected, it was wrong, like hearing someone speak inside a dream. When I looked up, I saw her. She stood in the center of the path, bathed in dappled sunlight. For a moment, I thought she might be human. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, and stood upright, just like me. But everything about her was off. Her skin shimmered faintly, a pale bluish silver that seemed to ripple as though it couldn't decide on a single form. Her hair fell to her waist in sheets of luminescent white, glowing faintly, even in the light of day. Her eyes, enormous and black as onyx, reflected the forest back at me, but distorted like staring into water. Hi," I managed, though it came out a hoarse whisper. My throat was dry. "Are you lost?" She tilted her head, bird-like, studying me with curiosity. "I am looking for something," she said. Her voice was calm, resonant, like the low hum of wind through a canyon. "Do you know where it is?" "Well, what is it you're looking for?" The woman, if she even was a woman, took a step forward. Her movements were fluid, unervingly graceful. She blinked slowly, deliberately. "I am searching for a name," she said. "A lost name. One that belongs to this world, but has been forgotten." The forest seemed to lean in around us. The breeze vanished, the sounds of birds and insects swallowed whole. A chill crawled up my spine, and yet there was no malice in her, no hostility, just an ancient sadness, something far beyond me. "A name?" I echoed, as though repeating the words would help them make sense. "What kind of name?" "A name that anchors, that binds. Without it, I cannot return home." Her gaze seemed to deepen, as though she were peering straight into my soul. "I have searched long, through forests and mountains, through rivers and plains. You are the first to see me." The realization hit me like a hammer. I was the first. Did that mean others couldn't see her? Was she invisible to the world, a ghost wandering the land? My head spun with questions I couldn't bring myself to ask. "I don't know how to help you," I said, my voice small, almost ashamed. The alien woman's expression didn't change. She reached out a hand, her fingers impossibly long and delicate, and gestured toward the forest around us. "The world remembers," she whispered. "It sings the name in its roots, in its rivers, in the wind that carries the leaves." I must listen, but the voices are faint, fractured. She took another step forward, so close now that I could see the faint patterns etched into her skin, like veins of starlight flowing beneath her surface. The air seemed to hum between us, a tangible thing. "Will you help me listen?" she asked. Something in her voice, something ancient and fragile, cracked open a part of me I didn't know existed. The part of me that heard the world when it rained, that felt the trees breathe when the wind blew. A connection, deep and primal, to the earth beneath my feet. "How can I help?" I asked before I even realized I was speaking. The alien woman lifted her hand and pointed beyond me, deeper into the forest, where the path dissolved into a sea of ferns and shadow. "Walk with me," she said. And so I did. We walked for what felt like hours, though time itself seemed to stretch and bend. The forest grew denser, wilder, as though we were stepping into a realm untouched by human hands. She never spoke again, but I could hear her listening, pausing to touch tree trunks, dipping her fingers into small streams, tilting her head to hear the whisper of the leaves. Finally, we reached a clearing. The sunlight poured into the space like liquid gold, illuminating a massive stone slab half buried in the earth. It was ancient, covered in moss and tangled vines, but its surface was marked with strange, flowing symbols that glowed faintly, a language I didn't recognize. The alien woman stepped toward it, her entire form shimmering brighter, as though the stone's presence had strengthened her. She turned to face me one last time. "The name is here," she said. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a breath. She smiled, a small, sad smile that held lifetimes of knowledge and sorrow. "Your world knows it," she said, "and so do you. Listen." I closed my eyes. The forest seemed to breathe around me, its sounds folding together into something harmonious. The rustling leaves, the gurgling stream, the distant calls of unseen birds. And beneath it all, a deep, resonant hum. A word, a name. It rose in my mind like a song forgotten, but remembered in the bones. I opened my mouth, and it poured out of me. Ishana. The moment I spoke it, the clearing erupted with light. The alien woman's form blazed brilliantly, her body lifting as though carried by unseen winds. The air vibrated, a low, ringing note filling every corner of the world. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice echoed, layered upon itself, as though she were already somewhere far away. "I am found." And then she was gone. The light vanished. The forest returned to its stillness. I stood alone before the ancient stone, the name still ringing in my ears, Ishana. I never saw her again. I never told anyone what happened in the forest that day. But sometimes when the wind moves through the trees just right, I hear it, that hum, that name, and I know she made it home.